Hello everyone, this is Kevin, your entrepreneur, and sorry about the weird camera angle. I just read the story and I was about to go to bed and decided to make a video on it now and didn't really feel like leaving. So anyway, let's talk about terms of agreements and data because it's something that is kind of common knowledge and yet it's not discussed much. Whenever you sign up for something like Facebook or Twitter or Google, especially Google or a Microsoft product, you always sign a little agreement that says they can use your data for whatever they want. Now, they agree not to sell your data to third party developers or parties, I guess the term is, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to give it away. And Uber, it turns out, is going to be giving away your data, specifically drivers' data. They might eventually give away riders or passengers' data as well, so that's a fair warning. According to a post by the Washington Post, it's titled Uber is finally releasing a data trove that officials say will make driving better for everyone. Now, I want to say up front that I question that logic because here's the thing: Uber is not giving that data over to the police or the taxis or the DMV. They're just giving it to the government, and they don't even specify what aspects of the government. It's just the government, and it's so. Let's see here. Yeah. According to the article, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to cherry pick some of the highlights. The timing of the data release, which will be launched on a website and called Uber Movement, coincided with another fight over data that the company is engaged in New York. Uber is blocking New York City officials' efforts to collect drop off times and locations from its drivers, a move that the city says will enable it to determine whether drivers are working too many hours, but Uber says violates passenger privacy. And interestingly, they both have a point. I mean, I have on occasion, not very often, certainly not recently. Okay, take it back recently, yes. I have worked more than 8 hours, and you're typically not, it's not recommended you do that. But some people do it, and the city is saying basically they want to make sure that that's not happening. Here's the thing though, we're independent contractors, we can work whatever we feel is necessary. And if some of us want to do 12-hour days and we don't hurt anyone, we're totally within our rights to do it. I don't recommend it personally. I think fatigue can set in, boredom can set in, and of course, I mean, unless it's like surging all day, it's you're not getting time and a half anyway, so why bother? Um, in addition to the New York City fight, Uber is sparring with cities around the world on issues ranging from self driving cars to working conditions for its network of freelance drivers. Sharing data could help build some goodwill in cities, said Linda Bailey, Executive Director of National Association of City Transportation Officials, which is working to establish a shared data standard for cities where ride sharing companies operate. But it continues a pattern that has proven irksome to regulators, that firms like Uber decide when and what data to release on their terms in defiance of cities' requests for specific sets of information. Now, here's the thing. It points out that this data sharing isn't even necessarily about safety on Uber's part. It's just, hey, they're fighting the government on all these issues. Government wants our data. I mean, the government loves data. That's why we have the census. And data is so important that even the Bible has a whole book to it. The book of Numbers is essentially a very, very ancient census. So data has always been important. Numbers has always been important. And Uber is giving this data to the government because they're fighting them on these issues and they want. This is probably a little bit of a I'll scratch your back if you'll scratch mine. Will it? And but it irks them that Uber can decide when and what to release the information and what information they release. And yeah, it is irksome, and it's irksome on my part at the very least because I frankly don't like being spied on. I know that unfortunately in the digital age, and of course now that I'm putting stuff on YouTube, there's not a whole lot of privacy these days, but it still bothers me that they would be tracking me like that. Not that I have anything to hide, of course. Let's see here. One of the things that has been frustrating cities is that they see it as a service that's making use of public right-of-way, public facilities, and isn't necessarily given back on just basic openness, Bailey said. It's definitely a step in the right direction, she said of the data release. But there's still ways to go for cities that feel like they're getting more than basic information. But really, if the issue here is that the government wants to make sure that drivers aren't driving more than 8 hours a day or whatever, what other information is important? Seriously. Like, do they need to see if the Uber driver takes a shortcut? Do they need to see if the Uber driver picks up a drunk girl and she's hot and he's hot, and before he drops her off they pull an alley and they have a little fun? Does the government need to know that? What other information does the government possibly need? I don't get it. I'm gonna share the whole article. But yeah, this bothers me. This really does. It's interesting and frustrating in the sense that basically Uber has never been a driver's best friend. They just haven't. I mean, we drivers have no loyalty to Uber. We have a little bit more to Lyft, but Uber we have none because Uber continues to cut the rates. They stifle us on the tipping options. They don't treat us right. And now they recently screwed us on the cancellation policy, where it's like they've really made it a point where it's like we really cannot cancel in any way that will not hurt us, even if they don't show up or if we don't feel safe. And now, even as they're talking about replacing us with driverless cars, how they continue to cut the rates, how they continue to deny us our tips, they are using data from our rides as leverage to get more of what they want. That bothers me on so many levels. And I mean, granted, we give them the right to do it. We signed the user agreement. It was in there. I actually read the user agreements. I know it's in there. But yeah, I don't know. And, you know, you have to read this whole article because it's unfortunately very convoluted. But it's interesting how some city officials, they're talking about how this is going to help, like, plan out streets and stuff, while others are saying, oh, this makes sure that, you know, drivers aren't on the road too much. So even the government itself can't seem to decide what they're going to do with this data. And if they can't decide, that means that Uber is not giving them specific data. It's giving them a very generalized data. And that is terrifying. I don't like that idea. I just don't. I'm sorry. Don't like it. Probably never will. So, yeah, I guess, I mean, the only thing that could be worse now is if Uber cuts the rates again. That's all. But yep, so your trips are about to be monitored. Information will be given away. Don't like it, but there's not a whole lot we can do about it. So anyway, I guess that's a good place to end. I'm linking to the article below. What do you guys think of this? I'd like to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. I guess in a few hours we're going to find out if our rates are going down again.